Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into the wild, rule-bending world of Smokey Yunick.
Oh, yeah, what a character. A name that, well, for anyone into motorsports, it just means genius, defiant.
And some seriously funny stories, right?
Yeah.
Just legendary antics.
Absolutely legendary.
You've likely heard the whispers, maybe about his ingenious so-called cheats, or just his famously blunt opinions.
Yeah.
We've got sources here that really paint a vibrant picture of this, well, larger-than-life guy. From a farm kid to making this huge mark on NASCAR and IndyCar, often infuriatingly so for the officials. So our mission today is to sift through the facts, maybe separate some folklore from the fantastic reality, and basically give you a, hopefully, humorous biography of a man who didn't just race the cars, he raced the actual rule book.
And that's the fascinating part, isn't it? Smokey's story, it's not just about the racing itself. It's like a masterclass in critical thinking, exploiting possibilities within the system. He basically forced racing regulations to evolve just through sheer brilliant ingenuity. We'll show you how his methods, the stuff people called cheating, were often just a totally different, maybe provocative way of reading the rules.
Okay, so where did it all start? Let's unpack this. The story begins in the Chamonix, Pennsylvania. Henry Yunick, son of Ukrainian immigrants, grew up on a farm. During the Great Depression, which, shaped things,
tough, right?
He drops out of school at 16. His father dies. He has to run the farm. And apparently this just supercharged his mechanical talents.
It seems so. The stories are amazing.
I mean, can you imagine building a working tractor from basically junk car parts? That's him as a teenager.
That kind of self-reliance, that hands-on, figure-it-out approach, that became his signature, really. And the nickname Smokey. That came from racing motorcycles in his spare time. Apparently they smoked a lot.
Fitting.
Oh.
Okay, and his military service, there's a little legend there too, right? Adds another layer. The story goes, he flew a B-17 Flying Fortress called Smokey and his Firemen on over 50 bombing missions in World War II. Supposedly even survived his appendix bursting mid-flight. Sounds insane.
It does. But the official records, they tell a slightly different story. They show him drafted as a welder, then later commissioned as a second lieutenant. So there's a gap.
A gap between the dramatic tales and the paperwork. So even his own biography has that rule-bending flavor, doesn't it?
It really sets the stage perfectly. Connect that to the bigger picture, and you see a guy who, from early on, knew how to operate in those gray areas, whether it was the military or later, the racetrack. After the war, he apparently saw Daytona Beach from the air during training flights and just decided, yep, that's where I'm going.
And he did. 1947, opens his own shop on Beach Street in Daytona. And the name.
Classic Smokey.
Smokey's best damn garage in town. And he actually registered that name.
Incredible confidence.
It started with truck repairs. Then this local racer, Marshall Teague, kind of pulls him into NASCAR. A world Smokey admitted he was completely unfamiliar with.
Yeah, it's like asking a rocket scientist to bake bread, and he invents some entirely new form of levitating pastry.
Exactly. His whole philosophy seems so simple, but it was revolutionary then.
If it's not in the rule book, that means he can do it. That was his mantra.
Right. Rules weren't walls, they were suggestions,
Yeah.
frameworks to explore.
Or exploit, depending on your perspective. That's why people joke, the NASCAR rule book should have his name on the first page, a dedication.
Probably true. And for you listening, this means we get to dive into some of the most audacious and honestly pretty funny cheats in racing history.
Which, and this is key, were mostly legal at the time.
Let's start with fuel. No rules about fuel temperature.
Yeah.
So what does Smokey do?
He chills it, gets it super cold, near freezing.
Why? Because colder fuel is denser. Simple physics. So he could literally pack more fuel into the standard tank.
And as the race goes on, the fuel warms up, expands.
Gives him extra laps, fewer pit stops, more speed. It's just elegant.
It's pure physics applied ingeniously. But yeah, that was just the start of his fuel games.
Oh, it gets better. The oversized fuel line. This is maybe the most famous one.
The legend.
He used these massive coils of tubing, like 11 feet of 2-inch diameter line.
Which basically held about 5 extra gallons of fuel itself. Hidden capacity.
And the story, maybe it's folklore, maybe not, but it's too good not to tell. NASCAR officials finally get suspicious, pull his fuel tank out for inspection, list 9 violations, and Smokey supposedly jumps in the car, so it better make it 10, and drives the car back to his shop with NO fuel tank.
Just running on the fuel in that massive line.
Exactly.
Now, the driving without a tank part that's often debated, might be exaggerated, but the oversized fuel line itself, that was absolutely real, documented. It just perfectly shows his knack for finding what wasn't explicitly forbidden, the gaps.
And how about NASCAR's own Deflategate, way before the NFL?
Oh, the basketball trick, yes.
He'd literally shove an inflated basketball into an oversized fuel tank before the inspection.
So when the officials, the scrutineers, filled it, it seemed like it held the legal amount.
Then, after they leave, he deflates the ball, yanks it out, and pops off the tank properly for the race.
Incredibly, the rules didn't say you couldn't put a basketball in your fuel tank temporarily.
It's just amazing lateral thinking. He didn't break the rule as written, he just worked around the inspection process.
His genius was often in understanding the process, the human element, as much as the written rules.
And he had others, right, like the wet sand in the roll cage.
Yeah, the story goes he'd pack the roll cage bars with wet sand to meet the minimum weight requirement at inspection.
Then, during the race, as the sand dried, he could supposedly drain it out through little hidden plugs in the floor, making the car lighter.
Again, technically maybe not illegal at that specific moment, or showing up with aluminum bumpers or a fiberglass hood.
Because the rules didn't explicitly say you couldn't use those materials.
Exactly. You have to remember, racing rules back then were still evolving. They couldn't possibly predict every single creative interpretation someone like Smokey would come up with. His actions, probably more than anyone else's, directly forced the creation of the incredibly thick, detailed rule books we have now.
They were constantly playing catch-up with him.
Constantly.
But maybe the peak, the most famous story, involves his 1966 Chevelle.
Yes, the scale model car controversy.
Rumors flew that he'd built a 78s scale car. Smaller, more aerodynamic. Illegal.
That part wasn't actually true, but what he did do was narrow the car because NASCAR rules specified length and height, but not width.
Sneaky. So his narrower Chevelle passed inspection against NASCAR's templates. But then...
Then the officials, probably tearing their hair out, went and got a rental Chevelle off a local Hertz lot. A completely stock car.
And that stock car failed the inspection against NASCAR's own template.
Incredible. It showed how imprecise things could be.
And Smokey's reaction was just priceless. He basically said, if you're going to play with rattlesnakes, you better know what rattlesnakes do.
Classic Smokey. Defiant to the end. But his creativity wasn't just for NASCAR. He took it to IndyCar, too.
Right. The rule book was apparently even thinner, which must have been like an open invitation for him.
Pretty much. He's credited as the chief mechanic for Jim Rathman's Indy 500 win in 1960. Although that caused some friction later. Rathman gave credit to someone else. It shows Smokey, wanted the credit too. Could rub people the wrong way sometimes.
He definitely wasn't shy.
Oh.
And he brought some truly wild machines to Indianapolis.
Oh, absolutely bizarre stuff. In 1959, there was the reverse torque special.
What was that?
A car where the engine literally rotated in the opposite direction to normal. The theory was it might improve weight distribution on oval tracks, counteract cornering forces.
Wow. Did it work?
Not really, but it showed his willingness to try anything. And then, even weirder, was the 1964 capsule car.
The capsule car. Capsule car. Yeah, I've seen pictures. It looks like something from, I don't know, a sci-fi movie. He said it was inspired by a weird German plane he saw in the war.
That was the story. It was one of the most unusual open-wheel racers ever. The driver sat way off-center in this little pod.
How did he even balance that?
Ingeniously. He put a massive fuel tank basically right up front, in front of the radiator. Again, exploiting the fact that IndyCar didn't have strict fuel capacity rules yet.
So the fuel weight balanced the offset driver.
That was the idea. It wasn't ultimately very successful on track. Apparently the drum brakes were terrible, really grabby. But guess what?
It led to new fuel capacity rules.
You got it. USAC brought in fuel capacity limits pretty quickly after that car showed up. He just kept forcing their hand.
And there's a funny little detail about that car too, right? The bumpers.
Oh, yeah. The source mentions the front bumpers had these little handprint shapes pressed into them. They were apparently traced from his son's hands, Little Smokey. A humorous touch on a radical design.
That's great. So, okay, it's clear this guy wasn't just finding loopholes. He was a genuine inventor.
Absolutely. He held, 10 or 12 U.S. patents, things we take for granted now, like variable ratio, power steering, extended tip spark plugs. He was involved.
But the hot vapor engine, that sounds like his potential masterpiece, and maybe the most overlooked.
It really could have been revolutionary. This is fascinating stuff. He took a standard 4-cylinder Pontiac Fiero engine and modified it to get 51 miles per gallon 51, while also making an incredible 250 horsepower and 230 pound-feet of torque.
From a stock little four-banger, that's unreal.
It could do 0-60 in 6 seconds, had no computer controls, and it passed emissions tests.
Oh, wait, what was the secret?
It was about completely vaporizing the fuel before it entered the cylinder. He heated the fuel-air mix to over 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and he used this special device he called a homogenizer, kind of like a small turbo, but its job was to trap the expansion from the heat and pressurize the intake.
So basically making hot air engines hyper-efficient, less fuel, way more power. Why aren't we all driving these? Seriously, what happened?
Well, resistance from the big auto industry, for one. They were already invested heavily in other technologies.
The whole not invented here syndrome. Dismissing ideas from this perceived gearhead hot rodder.
That was likely a big part of it. And let's be honest, Smokey's personality. He was famously cantankerous. Probably didn't exactly charm the corporate suits. He wasn't known for playing nice.
Yeah, you get that impression. But his genius wasn't just about speed, it was also about safety. Way ahead of his time.
That's a really important point. He developed air jacks back in 1961. Think about how crucial those are for quick, safe pit stops now.
And the first safe wall, using old tires and plywood.
Yes, in the early 90s, he saw the danger of bare concrete walls. His quote was something like, "Somebody needs to save the poor dumb bastards from themselves." Typical Smokey bluntness.
But they ignored it.
Tragically, yes. His simple, effective barrier idea wasn't widely adopted until after Dale Earnhardt's fatal crash in 2001. Then suddenly, safer barriers became the standard.
Wow. He saw it years before. Okay, let's talk about his relationships. Specifically with NASCAR's founder, Bill France Sr. Sounds like it was fiery.
Oh, strained is putting it mildly. Legendary feud. Smokey was relentlessly critical.
Some of the things he called him, pretty rough. Holy roller draft dodger, accusing him of selling stolen government property.
Oh, and saying France wouldn't make a pimple on a real mechanic's ass. He did not hold back. Had similar opinions about Bill Jr. and Brian France, too, apparently.
It kind of explains why he's still not in the NASCAR Hall of Fame, doesn't it? Despite being in, like, 30 others.
It certainly doesn't help. His absolute refusal to compromise, his willingness to call out anyone he thought was incompetent, it made him a huge thorn in the side of authority. But, you know, for a lot of fans and racers, that raw honesty was exactly what they loved about him. He was just unapologetically Smokey.
And he poured all of that, the good, the bad, the ugly, into his autobiography, right? Best damn garage in town.
Oh, yeah. Massive thing. 3 volumes, 1,100 pages, and he wrote it all out longhand first.
Wow. And it's described as, what, profane, outrageous, hilarious, but totally fascinating. He even warns readers about his old Southern racing English.
It apparently paints this picture of a really complex guy. Racer, mechanic, patriot, and scoundrel all rolled into one. His daughter, Trish, helped transcribe it. She mentioned he wasn't really an active father when his kids were young, too focused on the garage, but later regretted not being more open with his family.
Adds a human element.
Definitely. She also talked about how incredibly secretive his shop was, partly business, protecting secrets, but also because he genuinely felt outside opinions, even from smart friends, would just mess up his thought process. He lived in his own world.
And even at the end, battling bone cancer, leukemia, he stayed defiant.
Absolutely. The story is he just threw away his medicine near the end. Said, "I'm done with this shit. If I'm going to die, I'm going to die. Don't even talk to me about it anymore."
He passed away in 2001, age 77, living and dying completely on his own terms.
It's an incredible legacy, unmatched ingenuity, a total challenge to convention. He really believed, didn't he, that there was no way to police creativity.
And he proved it again and again. Inspired generations of crew chiefs.
Yeah, that quote from one of them is perfect. "We weren't rule breakers, we were rule makers." He really was NASCAR's first true mastermind.
What a ride. Smokey Yunick, the guy in the white uniform and the cowboy hat. Just a walking, talking revolution in motorsports. From chilling fuel to basketballs and gas tanks to that crazy capsule car. He just never stopped pushing, proving that if a rule wasn't written down.
It was an invitation to innovate, to think differently.
He fundamentally challenged assumptions, forced entire organizations to rewrite their playbooks. He left a permanent mark, not just on the cars, but on the whole mindset of how you approach problems.
Especially approaching them with audacious creativity.
His life story is just this wild mix. Genius, stubbornness, and, yeah, a lot of humor. So maybe the next time you're looking at a set of rules that seem rigid,
Ask yourself,
what would Smokey Yunick do? Where's the loophole? And maybe, just maybe, what fun can you have finding it?
And that does raise a good question for you listening right now. In your own field, whatever you do, where are those unwritten rules, those assumptions, just waiting for a little Smokey-style reinterpretation? Where can you find your loophole?